conscious mind gets bored with this. And so it just checks out. Kind of like when you go to sleep, it checks out. And now the unconscious mind is accessible. And that's when I, as a hypnotherapist, can make suggestions, positive suggestions, helpful suggestions, to help reprogram what is going on in the unconscious mind. Because, the habits we have and the things that we wonder, why did I do that? Why did I react that way? The answers usually lie in the unconscious mind, not in the conscious mind.
Today, we're joined by Ara Trembly, a licensed professional counselor, board-certified hypnotherapist, author, and Christian counselor who brings a unique blend of psychology, faith, and deeper inner work to the table. Ara leads 1010 Hypnosis and Counseling, a clinical practice grounded in proven therapeutic methods and spiritual insight, and he views God's Word as the highest source of wisdom in his work. Ara's latest book, Dreaming God's Way, explores how dreams can be meaningful avenues for spiritual growth, self-discovery, and even encounters with the divine, bridging science and the subconscious with biblical interpretation. It's a pleasure to have you here, Ara, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much for having me.
Great to have you.
So, very interesting background, and we were discussing this before we hit the record button. I don't know if I've ever spoken to anybody that can actually put somebody under hypnosis, but in a clinical practice is actually even more exciting because it's not, it's not mystical magic and Hollywood kind of hypnosis stuff that you see. Right. Can you tell us? I don't know how easy it is for you to explain, but what actually is hypnotherapy?
Okay, so hypnosis or hypnotherapy and hypnosis, well, I'll tell you what hypnosis is, and hypnotherapy just means applying hypnosis in therapy. So hypnosis is really very simple. It's a state of being very relaxed and yet very focused. And you might think, well, if I'm very relaxed, I might be a little loopy and maybe I wouldn't be focused, but that's actually not true. If you're very relaxed, it makes it easier for you to focus because there are not all kinds of things going on in your mind that will distract you. So if you're very relaxed and you're very focused, that you're in a, quote, trance. And that's what enables the hypnotist to work with you, because when you're in that state of being very relaxed, your unconscious mind is much more accessible to the hypnotherapist than it would be otherwise. If we were just talking like we are now, our unconscious minds are functioning, but mainly we're doing things with our conscious minds. So that it's really a gateway into the unconscious mind, right, which is where a lot of the important work we do as therapists happen.
So this is interesting. I've had, of course, dreams. Some dreams, it's bad pizza. And then other dreams I've actually had that are prophetic, okay? Mm-hmm. Which I would believe would be prophetic. It certainly would be prophetic in nature.
Okay.
And I've also had we call it open vision. That's when you're awake, but all of a sudden you have a vision that supersedes the real tangible world you're in, and you can see.
Yeah, fascinating.
Okay, so here's where I'm going. My question is, so a person has to, I've never been hypnotized. So a person, you're saying, has to completely relax and allow their subconscious mind to open up. Is that kind of what has to happen?
Yeah. I mean, it's not even a matter of allowing it. If you are completely relaxed, your unconscious mind, not your subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is something different. So it's your unconscious mind, which is where your dreams come from. Mm-hmm. It's the unconscious mind that we're talking about. And that's the level of consciousness that happens in dreams, or happens in daydreams, or happens in the kind of visions that you were talking about. That's the unconscious mind in operation. So hypnosis is just when we're when I hypnotize someone, I just drone on and on, and I say, I'll tell them you're getting very relaxed, your head's relaxed, your eyes, your face, your chest, your belly. We're going relax, 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 and relax.
Wow.
And after a while, people will, when we do this, the conscious mind gets bored with this, and so it just checks out. Kind of like when you go to sleep, it checks out. And now the unconscious mind is accessible. And that's when I, as a hypnotherapist, can make suggestions, positive suggestions, helpful suggestions, to help reprogram what is going on in the unconscious mind. Because, the habits we have and the things that we wonder, why did I do that? Or why did I react that way? The answers will usually lie in the unconscious mind, not in the conscious mind.
Wow. Well, that actually kind of just reminds me of, I have a very monotone voice, which is probably not good for podcasting, but it's really good for my kids at night, because sometimes I'll come in and I'll read to them and I just keep it very level, sometimes exciting, obviously, but keep it very level, and it pretty much puts them to sleep. So what I'm gathering from you is, if I use that same sort of technique, I guess when they're asleep or before they're asleep, I could also use the power of suggestion while they're in that state. Is that essentially the same practice?
It's certainly possible. It's certainly possible. Because the idea, the idea of the monotone and just droning on and really being repetitive over and over. The conscious mind doesn't like that. It keeps saying, you just said that,
Right.
or, all right, I know my face is relaxed. Okay, good. So yes, that's possible. You might be able to plant some suggestions at that point. And so it's good that you're kind of becoming a natural hypnotherapist there, right? At your kid's bedside.
Well, maybe it is very possible.
But the subconscious mind, okay, which okay, I have a dog barking. I have to go deal with this. But the subconscious mind, healing from within. What happens in the brain during hypnosis?
Yeah.
So it's literally you're speaking to an unconscious part of the brain that's and the part that we're operating in right now, where we're aware of things. We let that go when we go to sleep, and we allow the subconscious part of our brain to function, right?
Correct.
Which is kind of on autopilot. Your heart keeps beating, yet are you able to talk to the subconscious part of a person and they speak when they're in that subconscious hypnotic state?
So the answer is yes. When you are in a hypnotic trance, done by a professional like me, you're not asleep. Although it may appear that you're asleep, you're not.
Okay.
So, we were in my office and we were doing a session. I could talk to you and you could answer me back. Okay. And I could answer, I might say, how you feeling? What's going on? What do you see? Or I might take you to a nice green pasture and it's a beautiful day and the flowers are all around and the scents of the flowers are wafting to you, and how do you feel? What's going on? And you would be able to answer me. Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
So you're not asleep. This is not the same as being asleep,
Yeah.
even though both ways, being asleep or in a hypnotic trance, will help to access the unconscious mind. Yes.
So follow up on that. So let's say you have a patient and who came to see you because they have a problem, or maybe there's something there that they really are dealing with, night terrors, maybe a traumatic event in their life, PTSD, So when you get them into this trance-like state and you're taking them to a beautiful place, but then do you ask them about what it is and that they come to see you? I mean, at some point you start to draw that out, right?
Yes. So generally what happens is we may spend 20 minutes or half an hour just getting relaxed.
Yeah.
Just, over and over, the droning on that I mentioned, we may spend that much time. But after that time, people are very, very deeply relaxed. The one thing people will always say after coming out of hypnosis was, that was so relaxing. I've never been so relaxed in my life. And that's exactly what we're aiming for. So yeah, absolutely. But then at some point we have to address why we're there. So, a very common one that people will come to me for is to stop smoking. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so we have to address why we're there. So once we're in that very relaxed state, I start saying things like, you made a decision to stop smoking. That's a wonderful thing. What a courageous thing to do. What a very healthy thing to do. So, you've made the decision that, cigarettes will have no part in your life ever again. And, so there are a lot of positive things like that. I'm saying, also saying a lot of negative things. It's very interesting. One of the things I always tell people is, from now on, if you try and take a puff on a cigarette, you will become ill. You'll
Really?
start throwing up. You'll start coughing. You won't be able to control it. You would just become, you would become ill. And I always tell people after I'm through, now sometimes they'll remember that and sometimes they won't when they come out of the trance. But whether they remember it or not, I will remind them. I'll say, listen, just to let you know, I told you this, and it will happen if you try and smoke a cigarette. But some people just have to try, and they do,
Yeah.
and then they get sick. It's
Wow.
I had him in. I had him in do that. Go through. He gave me his cigarettes. We got rid of them. We went through the session. He was great, but he went back on the job where his buddies smoked, and he had to get a cigarette from somebody and try it. And he ended up coughing his lungs out and having lots of problems. And he's like, I believe.
I believe.
I totally believe. Yes.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
but really, it was just a suggestion. He really,
Wow.
did I do that to him? No, he allowed it to happen to himself.
Wow. What? So the other part of your work, though, Ara, is you integrate Christian faith with your work.
Yes.
So usually, if you're thinking about it from, I have a medical background, so usually when you think about, doing any sort of medicine really at all, I don't really think about adding any sort of Christian faith into that type of work. Now, your line of work, though, is more, psychological. So
Yes.
I could see how you could overlap the two. Um, can you kind of explain to us how that works? Are your patients already kind of coming into that with that mindset, or is that something that you suggest to them?
Okay. So, first and foremost, I'm a follower of Christ. That's it.
Right.
I give my life to Jesus, and so it pervades everything I do. So when a person comes to me, whether it's just for therapy or for their hypnotherapy or for anything, or even for career counseling, it doesn't matter. I always tell them right up front, this is who I am. I'm a follower of Christ. I'm a Christian. I will talk about the Bible. I will talk about Jesus.
Okay.
And some I may even pray with you. So that's, I let them know that right up front, so they know that might be coming. And many times I
Okay,
will
good.
incorporate it into the hypnosis script that I use, and I'd say it's a script, but it really isn't, because you change it depending on the person.
Sure.
But if I'm taking someone to that delightful meadow that we talked about, that beautiful meadow, I might say it's something like, God has created this wonderful meadow, and you are privileged to be there right now. And here's what's going on. Here's what you see. Here's what you hear. And so absolutely, yes. And it's interesting that, I've told many people this. Not everybody that comes to me for counseling or hypnotherapy or it is a Christian or is a
Right.
believer in God at all. But I find that the people who are believers do much better in therapy than those who are not.
Wow.
And the reason is really simple, because those, if we are followers of Christ, he's our rock. He's something to hold on to, never changes. people who don't have God or don't have Jesus in their lives don't really have anything to hold on to that doesn't change, especially in this day and age. They don't really have anything to hold on to that's everlasting. And because of that, they're more anxious. And it's it's much more difficult with them. It's not impossible, but it's much more difficult with them to have success.
Wow, that is really, again, amazing. Well, the Bible says that death and life are in the power of the tongue. So,
Yes, indeed.
you have to when you're a believer, you have to believe, first of all, and then you have to confess. And then what you're doing is you're creating a contract with God, basically. He is with you, you are with him. If you didn't have that foundation in your life, then it would be tough to put a stake down, okay, without anywhere to put it. I mean, I can see where that would be more difficult. Let me ask you, let's talk about dreams, though, and the dream world. So,
Yes.
why do humans dream? And what is the psychological and the spiritual perspective of that? I mean, why do we dream?
All right. So the answer is we don't know. We don't know why we dream, but except what we do know that God gave us this ability, gave us this channel to the unconscious mind. We do know that because it's scripture is full of it.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we do know that dreaming occurs. And, if I'm going to be a psychologist, I'll say, well, it's really necessary to our mental health. And it really is, because there have been studies where dreaming has been suppressed in individuals in a laboratory setting, and all kinds of psychological problems start cropping up very quickly.
Really?
If the dreaming function isn't there. So it
Really?
appears that it is necessary for the health of our mind to be able to dream. But from a spiritual perspective, this is a channel. If you look at the dreams that are interpreted in the Bible, Joseph in particular, Joseph of the Old Testament in particular, you see that dreams have meaning. Dreams, they often carry messages. Sometimes the messages are prophetic. Sometimes they're just messages for personal growth. It could be anything. But in Joseph's case, this was about a whole nation. He was dreaming about what's going to happen for a whole nation because he was interpreting Pharaoh's dream. So the interesting thing about that is, here's this guy. He was in prison. Pharaoh's wise men couldn't help him out with the dream because Pharaoh said, hey, if you really are a wise man, you'll know what I dreamed. And then you'll be able to tell me what it was about. And of course they couldn't. But here's this guy who comes from prison, who recommended by his baker who was in prison with him. And he comes along and he gives Pharaoh the interpretation. And not once does Pharaoh say, no, that's impossible. No, that can't be right. No, you're interpreting this wrong. Or you're just some guy who got out of prison. Are you kidding me? Right. Not once does he say that. It makes perfect sense to him. And when we interpret dreams, that's when it's interesting because people say, well, how do you know a dream interpretation is right? The person who dreamed it will say, yes.
They'll say,
yes, that's it. Yes, that makes sense to me. Yes. And obviously that was what Pharaoh was saying, because not only did he say yes, he made Joseph the second most powerful man in Egypt. So I would say that's a successful interpretation.
I would. Let me throw in one more thing, and that is sometimes people come to me with dreams, and as they're telling me their dream, I see the dream, and I'll say, "Oh, I see that person. He's wearing glasses, and he's about in his mid-50s," and they're like, "Yeah, that's exactly right. He's wearing a blue shirt." Yeah, and I don't know why that can happen. I'm still blown away by that. Can you help me understand that?
So sure I can, but what I'd say is that's telepathy.
Okay,
that's what that is. Okay,
I'm reading their mind. Am I reading the mind?
So telepathy is for real. It's not that you intend to do it, but it does happen, and there have been many, many, many documented instances of telepathy taking place. And I've had it take place in my own life. I remember I used to commute on a train when I lived up north. I used to commute into New York City on a train, and I was sitting there one day, and there was a lady next to me reading her paper, and I just glanced over at her, and in my mind, I heard this voice say, "Would you like a piece of my paper?" And the next second, she turned to me and said, "Would you like a piece of my paper?"
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, oh, and I was dumbfounded at that.
Yep.
And there have been other, there have been many times where this has happened to me. I remember getting in an elevator once at a hospital, and there was nobody in it, but then a woman got on at one floor, and she looked, and for some reason the name Patel came up in my mind.
Hmm.
And she turned to me and said, "Excuse me, can you tell me where Dr. Patel's office is?" Again, yes. So telepathy is real. So,
Yeah.
so I'm guessing that what happened for you was a little bit of telepathy going on there, and that's not to be afraid of. That's another uh, ability or gift that God gives us. It's not something we can turn on and off.
No.
It's not. I've never been able to do that.
No.
So I always tell people I'm not a mind reader, but sometimes I read minds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now I don't feel like that's. I mean, usually when that happens, then the person I'm talking to is like, "Whoa, okay." So, but that doesn't mean I
Yeah.
can interpret the dream.
Right.
Exactly
Okay?
right.
They'll say, "So what does it mean?" I'm like, "I don't know." And sometimes I do have a revelation of what it is,
Right.
but a lot
Sure.
of times I'll tell them what I see, but I don't know what it means. Okay, so I'm sorry. So you're saying that's because that's a different part. It's a different
Yeah.
the gift,
Yeah.
prophetic gift, if we will, or
Yes.
it's just a little different. So, all
Hmm.
right, that
Absolutely.
helped clear that up for me a little. Paul.
Well, I'm interested now. So now you guys brought up telepathy too. So, just
Yeah.
for so so now we're talking about three different sorts of things. I think from my
Yes, we
understanding is
are.
the hypnosis,
Yes.
which you said is the unconscious mind tapping into, correct?
Yes.
And then
Tapping into the unconscious mind. Yes.
the dream world would be the subconscious mind.
Well, no, they're both the
They're
unconscious
both
mind.
the unconscious mind.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
Subconscious mind is something else. Subconscious mind is like something you do subconsciously, like tapping your fingers on a desk or scratching your head. You don't intend to do it, but yeah, it happens.
okay.
That's what
So
subconscious mind is. So we're
so
not
like
talking about subconscious mind at all. We're talking about the unconscious mind.
Unconscious mind. Okay.
so would telepathy be in that category as well, or do we even understand that?
I don't know that we do understand it because
Okay.
we don't really know how it comes about. Again, I always say that dreams are a gift from God. The
Right.
unconscious mind is part of His creation and part of a gift from God, and so is telepathy. Sometimes He allows us to communicate without speaking,
Right.
without
Amen.
being in the same room, being in the same place. It's
Yep.
been there are countless reports of this happening. So many that you have to think, well, they can't all be fake. So
Right.
yeah, and since I've experienced it myself, yes, I believe it absolutely.
Amen. So all right. So thanks for clearing that up for me, Ara.
Sure.
But a couple things I still didn't get to address all the way that I was thinking about with the hypnosis factor is
Mm-hmm.
so after this is done, let's say it's a successful session, just for sake of argument or conversation.
Right.
How do your patients need to come back and have this session reinforced sometimes?
Sure.
Also, do you give them techniques and practices that they can do this practice on their own without your help?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So the answer is yes. Most often they need to come back. With smoking, it's really only 2 sessions.
Okay.
It's one session and then a second session to reinforce, and that's it. With certain other things like deep-seated anxiety, it may take 6 or even 8 sessions.
Mm.
Okay, and in each session, I'm doing something different. All right, I'm doing something that has the same goal, but I'm doing something different. I may be using a different technique. So it may take place over a longer period of time. So yeah, most often and you asked, am I teaching them techniques? Yes, I teach everyone who comes into hypnosis with me. I teach them how to hypnotize themselves,
Wow.
which means how to put And really all I'm doing is saying, I'm going to teach you how to get into that very relaxed state so you can make suggestions to yourself, to your own unconscious mind.
Wow.
And it's interesting because, I do this for everybody, but I don't always hear reports. But I had one man, he was coming to me for weight loss. All right. So again, then that's maybe 4 or 6 sessions, let's say. But he was kind of but I taught him in the first session how to hypnotize himself. And the next session he came back and he says to me, Yara, he says, I used it. I used the self-hypnosis. I said, really? He says, yeah, I used it for my golf game. I said, really? And he said, yeah. He says, I shot a 90. He goes, I never shot a 90 in my life. It was the best thing.
That's great.
And my buddies are saying to me, what's with you? And I just said, I'm very relaxed.
Yeah.
And that's really, that's just testament to the fact that it really works.
Wow.
But yes, so that's the kind of longer way of answering. Definitely, we give them skills that will help along the way.
So sorry, Pastor, I was gonna just jump because the golf example, that's actually what I was thinking about, because sometimes you see, like, for instance, George Kittle is who I'm thinking about. They did a close-up of George Kittle on some Netflix thing, and anyway, right before the game starts, he's closes his eyes and he's deep breathing. He's saying, you are strong, you're not afraid, you can do that. Is that pretty much the kind of techniques that you could infer he might be using?
It could be that. It could be that if that's what's getting in the way. So, Jason Day, the golfer, all right, if you watch him, he is famous for doing that. He'll stand there, he'll hold the club out in front of him, and he'll close his eyes for a few seconds. What he's doing, though, is visualizing the shot. He's visualizing how it's going to go, how he's going to feel, what it's going to look like. But he does that within a few seconds. But that helps. And visualization, it is actually a form of hypnosis. It's a form of self-hypnosis. You're visualizing how things are going to go so that when you step up, you've already got an idea in your mind. All right, this is how it's going to go. This is what I'm going to do. And it does help, because what that does is it engages your unconscious mind and your conscious mind at the same time. So your unconscious mind is on board. Okay, this is what we're doing. Your conscious mind obviously says, this is what I want to do, but you're not distracted.
Wow.
Okay, because your unconscious mind is zeroed in. And well, I won't go into the dream part because we're not on that part yet, but I'll get to that later.
Before we get
the dream part of golf.
Before we get back to the dreams, what about patients that come to see you that have Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, or schizophrenia? Does being hypnotized help, let's say, an Alzheimer's patient or a Parkinson's? Does it help with the fact, because, memory, they're having a problem. So does it help to increase their memory power, even though that's an area of their brain that is damaged or not working as well?
Okay. So the answer is it could. It could. Hypnosis is not going to cure Parkinson's. Okay. It's interesting because we can, I can hypnotize a person not to do certain things. Like, if you have a tremor in your hand, I could give the person a post-hypnotic suggestion, meaning this is a suggestion about what will happen after the hypnosis, to say, your hand will not move at all. But we really, we don't really know why the hand is moving. So even if I do that, even if it's successful, and it will only be successful for a little while, it's not a cure. And, I had a kid come to me, brought in by his mother, and they were afraid that he was very anxious, which he was, but he had this shaking of his arm, that very same thing. He had the shaking of his arm, and he sat down and his arm is shaking, and I just looked at him and I said, "Stop that," and he stopped. Okay. So no. So yes, this was psychogenic. This was his mind. It wasn't that he couldn't stop doing this. There was something in his mind about it. But as soon as I told him to stop, he stopped. No one had ever
Command.
thought to just tell him to stop.
Yeah.
Okay. And I didn't hypnotize him. He wasn't, but I gave him the suggestion. Stop that. He stopped.
Huh.
And
Wow.
his mother was amazed. And
Right.
so and I was too. I mean, sometimes the things that we can do, because we're not exactly sure how they work, they amaze us too.
Wow.
Very good.
Yeah. So I guess that from what I gather from that, then I guess hypnotherapy would probably be more successful for habits, not necessarily physical disabilities or ailments. No.
Although, I mean, hypnosis is helpful for pain management.
Right.
Okay. But again, it's kind of, it teaches the mind to look away from the pain.
Sure.
That's the best way I can describe it. The pain is still happening, but teaches the mind to look away from it.
Well,
so if the mind is looking away from it, even though I'm still in pain, I'm not aware of it.
Right. Well, I would also argue and say that pain is subjective to each person anyway. I mean, as opposed to, like somebody with the physical disability, like Parkinson's, for like the example we were using.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It is.
Right. So,
Okay.
I'm sorry, Pastor, you were talking about, I wanted to get back into dreams with Ara as well, but Pastor, you had an interesting question I think you wanted to pose. I don't know if you remember it. Sorry. The aliens, ETs.
Oh yeah, that's before we went on either. Yeah, I mean, obviously you're going to be talking to people. You're hypnotizing them into the unconscious mind, and when they're in this unconscious state, do they tell you things that they probably wouldn't tell you? For instance, if they felt like they had encountered an alien or they've had a UFO abduction, and they probably don't want to tell you that. Maybe that's bothering them. When they're in this state, do you have to ask that question, or do things come out in the unconscious mind that they probably weren't coming there to tell you?
Okay. So I've been doing this for 20 years and never had anyone been abducted or by aliens or anything
huge,
like that.
right there. Okay.
So never once. So I would never ask them if they had been abducted by aliens or had seen aliens. Why? Because by my merely asking, I'm suggesting that they might have.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm planting a suggestion. So I would never do that. When we do hypnotherapy, we have to be very careful because the things that we're saying are being taken literally by the unconscious mind.
Yeah.
And the unconscious mind will make them happen. Okay. Just like it made that man get sick when he puffed on a cigarette. The unconscious mind will make it happen. So we have to be very careful. So that's the reason why, you'll, I don't know if you've heard of this, but some people try and supposedly regress people into previous lives. Okay. They regress them back beyond their own lives into some previous life that they've had.
And now we're going back to reincarnation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Every instance I've seen of that, when I watch the session, it's the hypnotist planting suggestions,
Got it.
So he'll say, "Oh, I'm back in a village. Oh, is this a colonial village? Well, that's a suggestion right there. Okay, and so that's why it's really and look, Scripture says we live once, we die once.
Right.
Scripture is clear about that.
Yeah, it is.
So. And I've never, much as I think hypnosis is a powerful tool, it can't do that.
Well, this is a very key point, and I'm glad to hear this. Actually, personally, to hear that in 20 years you've never had anybody say, "Yeah, this has happened," because you're getting them relaxed and you're getting them in the unconscious mind. Do you find the unconscious mind is truthful?
The unconscious mind tells the truth as it knows it.
That's fair.
So we used to think in psychology that the unconscious mind recorded everything that happens to us. Everything. We used to think that recorded it, literally recorded.
Right.
And that if we used hypnosis, we could go back to those things and have them replayed somehow, and it would be, and there were a lot of, so we were assuming that memories were repressed, and because people went through trauma, and there was a lot of controversy about this because people were were being regressed and having memories of being um, um, assaulted during childhood or sexually molested during childhood, and bringing charges against people based on this. But it turns out again that it's not true that we have that what the mind records is an exact recording of what happened. What is true is it will remember how you felt. Your unconscious mind will remember how you felt and how you were processing what was going on, what it seemed like to you. So it creates that memory. But there's a great book called that I recommend highly, called "The Myth of Repressed Memory." It's by Elizabeth Loftus, that just debunked that whole thing. And and she is famous for being able in her laboratory to create false memories in people that they swear happened. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Because of the power of suggestion, because of when the
just
person in that vulnerable, and it sounds to me like when you're in this unconscious mind, you're in a vulnerable state. The hypnotist could actually suggest things for them to do, which would actually be harmful even to that individual.
Yes, the hypnotist could do that, but so there's an old saying that people know, you'll never do anything under hypnosis that you wouldn't do normally otherwise, and that's generally true. You will not. Okay, so there's been lots of murder mysteries written about people hypnotized to do killings. Now, if you're not a killer to begin with, you're not going to do that. If you are, then sure, you might do that. Okay, because you're a killer, but no, that doesn't happen.
And that makes total sense. So in other words, your conscious mind can override your unconscious mind if whatever it is that the command is counterproductive.
And I don't even know if it's that. Your unconscious mind just won't accept it. Okay, your unconscious mind. I like that. The unconscious mind is open and suggestible, but it's not stupid.
No. It can say no. A person to overcome smoking, they coming because they want to overcome this habit.
Right.
The unconscious mind is willing to listen to the suggestions because this is the goal of the conscious person.
Yes. Okay. And that's a great example because, I had a woman who came to me, as I said, the smoking, it's only 2 sessions, but I had a woman who came to me to stop smoking. We went through the 2 sessions. At the end of the second session, she said to me, well, okay, we're done and I'm still going to smoke. And I said, oh, really? She said, yeah, I just did this to prove to my husband that it wouldn't work. All right. So her going in, her idea was, this is not going to work. Well, if that's your idea, guess what? It's not going to work.
Right.
It's not. So it's just what you said, Pastor. It's just what you said. We have to be committed to it and want it to work in order for it to work. You were right on target with that.
So the Hollywood Good Will Hunting is a good example of, I'm just messing with you. I'm not actually coming here for help.
Yeah, exactly.
Essentially.
How big Matt Damon?
And that happens. That does happen.
Yeah.
We got Matt Damon into this podcast, which is very exciting.
That's incredible.
I don't know where we're going next.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
So our Ara, I'm sorry. Jeez, I keep messing that up.
Yes.
Get that
that's okay.
You got to get in your unconscious mind.
Yeah.
This name, Sarah. It's Ara, okay?
Well, I'm not.
I have that somewhere.
I have to do it after we're done, and then we'll be done anyway. So
okay.
But So what inspired? So your book, Dreaming God's Way. What inspired the book, and then how do you blend scripture with dream analysis in it?
Okay. So what inspired the book was, from the time I was in my 20s, which is a long time ago now. Even in college, I was always fascinated with dreams. I've always been fascinated with dreams. And at, even back then, I would write down my dreams and just try and, think like, well, what's going on here? And I read a lot of Carl Jung, who
Mm-hmm.
is, when it comes to interpreting dreams, he's kind of like, it's kind of like he's the acknowledged master, the acknowledged guru. Read a lot of Jung, and it's interesting because his methods of interpreting dreams focus on symbols, which is exactly what the way God interprets dreams in Scripture. When you think
Oh.
of the dream that Joseph interpreted for Pharaoh, that it was full of symbols, sick cows, sheaves of wheat, things like that, was full of symbols, and all of that fascinated me. And, as I became a psychologist and early psychologists, Freud, Jung, and beyond, often work with dreams. Very few therapists these days will work with dreams, although it's really a great boon to us. It enables us to look into your unconscious mind and find out what's really going on, what's really driving that habit you have, what's really driving that fear you have, what's really driving that anxiety you have. It enables us to look into them. Yes, dreams are symbolic, and so that's all of that has learning this over the years in my own dream work, and then in working in with clients and in researching about dreams was where I got to where I said, I really have to do this. And really, one of the primary reasons I wrote this book, Dreaming God's Way, is that there are a lot of dream books out there. I don't know if you've ever looked at this, but there are a lot of dream books out there. And what they are, it's like a dictionary, or it's like an encyclopedia. You look up a symbol, symbol of the cross. Well, it always means this, it always means that. So to all of us, we're Christians. We love the Lord. So the symbol of the cross means Jesus,
Right.
or it might symbolize the church. Okay. But it doesn't mean that to everybody. So, if I'm a rescue worker, symbol of the cross might mean the Red Cross.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a truck driver dealing with naps and intersections all the time, it might just mean a crossroads.
Right.
It doesn't always mean this thing. We think that symbols have universal meanings, but they really don't, because they mean different things to different people. So Jung emphasized this, and I do too. The symbols are the keys to interpreting your dreams, but I have to know what that symbol means to you to interpret your dream, not what it means to me, not what it meant to Jung or somebody else. I have to know what it means to you in order to interpret your dream.
Here's a question that's interesting to me, and that is, I used to have a fear because I can't swim. I had a fear that the worst thing I could think of would be upside down in a car underwater. And I would tell people that, okay? I would say it. I'd say, you know what, guys, I'm good. I'm not afraid of nothing that creeps and crawls on the earth but this. Well, one day on the way to work, I wasn't driving, but the young man that was driving lost control of the car. We rolled it, and we went upside down underwater 20 feet. And I'm upside down in a seatbelt. And it came to me that I saw my whole life flash in front of me. And when you hear people say that, it's the truth. You can see yourself as a child to the present in a matter of a second. It's an incredible thing that I can't duplicate it. And then I just said, Jesus, save me, help me. And the belt came loose. I went through the window and something grabbed me. I tell this all the time, shot me up to the top. And I'm here today to talk about it. But I read in scripture where Job said, that thing that I greatly feared has come upon me. It's a scripture. So I thought to myself, can we, I understand you got to confess things for it to, that's part of faith. Is there such a thing as a law of attraction where you just keep saying things you could bring good or bad your way because you keep saying it? Is there such a thing? Because what's the opposite?
Okay. Yeah. So is there like a law of attraction that's outside of us? No,
Probably not.
But what there is, but here's the thing. If you think about something enough, your mind will try to make it happen. Okay. So if you think on something long enough, your mind is actually going to try to make that happen.
Wow.
So it's the what we call the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mm.
And I've seen this with patients over and over again when they predict that things are going to go wrong. It's it's the opposite of what Jason Day does. Jason Day says, "All right, I'm going to think about success.
Right.
Success. I'm going to keep thinking about success, and it happens. All right.
Yes.
But if I think about all the time, I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail. Your mind will make that happen because your unconscious mind thinks that's what you want. You want to fail.
Yeah.
There's some reason for this.
You are
Okay,
what you eat.
so let's fail.
You are what you feed yourself. You feed yourself positive things, and scriptures and positive things. Positive things your brain will try to help you make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, as Proverbs says, as a man thinks, so he is.
Yes,
and that's 100% true. And that's really what you're describing there.
Yep, good.
So, Ara, before we started, I mentioned to you, I don't remember my dreams anymore. And actually, honestly, it's probably my fault because I don't want to. So I think I made that subconscious or unconscious effort.
Unconscious proclamation?
Yeah, I think I told myself I don't want to do this anymore because I didn't like nightmares and I just liked being rested.
Yeah.
And so now the way I like to rest is go to bed, everything's blackout, and I get up and I'm good. And I'm okay with that. But my question is, it's kind of for me and for other people as well. Should we be paying attention to our dreams? What do you think? Just should we be paying attention to them?
So yeah, in general, yes, we should, because our dreams have valuable things to tell us.
Okay.
All right. So we talked about golf before. So golfer Jack Nicklaus, famous, one of the great golfers of all time, was playing in a tournament. He was having trouble. He was having trouble with his swing. He just wasn't on that day. So when the day's play was over, he went out to the range and he hit 100 balls or whatever it was, just to try and see what it was, see if he could correct it. But he really couldn't. Okay. But that night, this is self-reported by him. That night he had a dream, and in the dream, he dreamed about a way to correct his swing. The next day, he went out and used that in the tournament, and he did great.
Yeah. Wow.
All right. So should he pay attention? Yes, because his dream was telling him, here's the way to correct what's going on with you. So his unconscious mind knew what the problem was, but his conscious mind didn't. So I'll give you a great example of that. I've only been able to do this once, but it's one of my favorite stories. So I had a kid who was coming to me, just for regular counseling. But one day his mom came in and said, my son has lost his game. So he had this little chip that was for a game in his system. See, my son has lost the chip to this game, and it's really important to him. And the whole family has looked all over the house, and we cannot find it. Could you hypnotize him to remember where it is?
Yeah.
And so what I said, well, I've never done that before, but I said, if he knows where it is, the answer is yes. Okay. So I did a little short hypnosis session with him, just relaxed him the way I described to you. We get people relaxed. And we talked about the chip, the way it looks, the way it feels, the way it even has a smell to it. We talked all about it. And then I just said to him, when you go home today, as soon as you walk in the door, you'll immediately know where that chip is. You'll go right to it and you will pluck it out. So the next week when they came to me, the mother was just amazed. She said, as soon as we walked in the door, my son, Julian, walked over to a bookcase. He pulled it out from the wall. He reached behind and found the chip.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Time.
So, that's 100% true story.
I believe that.
He reached behind. Now, I didn't, when I did this, I didn't know if it was going to work, but my thought is, if your unconscious mind knows, you'll be able to do it. And his unconscious mind did know it was there.
Wow. Take that one, Paul. Deal with that.
I don't know how to figure that one.
Okay. So okay. And so people have dreams, and then when they have a dream about something that's strange, out of the ordinary, they're in a house, they had to go upstairs, and there was something, and something just strange. And then but it bothers them. And then they'll come and they'll ask about this because they can't figure out what in the world it could be. Do we have scrambled dreams for no reason? Is if we're tired or we've been overwhelmed or we're worrying or we're stressed, can that cause strange dreams, or should we pay attention to even those dreams?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and really what you're asking, if I may rephrase your question, is when should we pay attention to dreams?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Right?
When?
Yes. And that's a great question. All right. So my answer is we should pay attention to dreams when they're accompanied by strong emotion. Okay. So that could be fear.
Yeah.
It could be, sometimes we wake up from dreams laughing. One of my patients just yesterday told me she woke up from a dream laughing. Okay. So it might be that, or it might be sadness. It might be anxiety, but if there's an emotion attached, then we should pay attention to it. Okay. If it just seems to be a jumble of things and you have no particular emotion about it and no particular reaction to it, then yeah, probably, there's not a story being told, but the Talmud scholars and Jewish scholars, their take is that the dream is a story being told to you by God through your unconscious mind, and you need to pay attention to it. Okay, so any dream that has emotions attached, as soon as you wake up, it's usually the dream before you wake up that you'll remember the most. Okay, as soon as you wake up, if you have emotion about a dream, that's the time to see, let me record everything I or write down or record in a recording device, everything I know about this dream, because this is important.
Right.
This is my mind telling me, hey, wake up. This is important. The same thing is true if you keep having the same dream over and over and over again. All right. So one of the dreams I recount in my book is a lady. I think this is back in the late 19th or early 20th centuries, but a woman in Charleston, South Carolina, she had a dream that there was a man there was a ship that was going back and forth from there to England, and it was shipwrecked somewhere in between. And she had a dream that the captain and some of the crew members were still alive and clinging to the wreckage. Okay. So she told her husband about this, and her husband apparently had some influence, so got people to actually go out and search to see if they could find this, right? So they went out and searched, and they found nothing, okay? But the woman kept having this dream over and over again. She saw the man in the water. She saw the captain in the water. She again prevailed on her husband, and he prevailed on somebody, and they went out and looked again. And yet again, they found nothing. But still, the dream persisted. Okay. Still, she kept dreaming this until the third time was the charm. They went out and they found the captain clinging to wreckage, just as this woman said he was, and a couple of the other sailors, and they were able to rescue them. All right. So to me, this was a message from God.
Yeah.
This wasn't telepathy. She didn't know these people. There was no connection where she might have known these people. This was the message from God. No, they're out there. Go, tell somebody to go rescue them. And sure enough, they did.
So now we're going into a level of beyond the human aspect of it, and we get into the prophetic or the supernatural or the gifts of the Spirit. Okay, and the ability to, and that's another level. Because then that's something that's supernaturally happening beyond you.
Yes. Correct.
Because that's what Joseph did. That's what Daniel did. That's what Jacob saw, Jacob's ladder. These were supernatural revelations, right?
Correct.
So people are always concerned, am I having a spiritual dream, or is this just a dream? And that is a great thing. I would say check with Scripture, and that would be your first place to go.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I would say that 100%. Yes.
So this does happen. And if you do have someone under hypnosis who reveal and I'm sure people reveal things when they're the unconscious mind. Do they ever reveal something that the conscious mind either doesn't know or doesn't want to say. Is there any of that?
Okay, so does it reveal things the conscious mind doesn't know? Yeah. I just, the example of the boy who found his chip was an example of that.
Right.
That revealed something his conscious mind didn't know, but his unconscious mind did.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah, absolutely. But in terms of dreams, what they're revealing, you make a very good point. The source might be your own unconscious mind, or it might be God's mind.
Yeah.
So the woman who kept having this repetitive dream, that wasn't from her own unconscious mind. That was from God's mind. That was God sending her a message. Hey, these people need rescuing. You need to do this. So yes, there's a big difference there. And, the biblical dreams that we talk about, they're always, it's interesting, again, nobody ever says in these biblical accounts, no, that can't be. No, you're wrong. Nobody ever says that. No, that doesn't. So why do they not say that? Because, and I find this when I interpret dreams for people, even in the office, because if I'm on target, people seem to know it right away. They'll just say, yes, right. That makes complete sense. I understand that. Your own mind will tell you, yes, that's right. I really, and I've had people tell me, nah, that doesn't make sense, and okay, then I have to dig further because I'm not on the right path. But most of the time people will, see something there. And the only reason I'm able to make sense of their dreams is because I've been working with them a long time. I know them well, but I'll ask questions, if they were dreaming of a cross, I'll say, what does the cross mean to you?
Right.
If they've been dreaming of, of unicorns, I'll say, well, what do unicorns mean to you? I want to know, because that's going to be the key. That's always going to be the key. So it's like, dreaming is unlocking the door to the unconscious mind and being able to look in, and there's treasure there, but we have to know what's treasure and what's not. And we have to really think about it. It's not just, sometimes it's very obvious and sometimes it's not so obvious, but the emotion that accompanies the dream will tell us whether it's important enough to pursue or not.
So your book's called Dreaming God's Way.
Yes.
And the examples from the book is playful, prophetic, spiritually revealing dreams.
Right.
Yeah. And so people can start learning how to understand the dreams they have.
Yes.
It's very important. And there's no perfect formulas, what I'm hearing you say. There's no symbol time that means this. It depends on the individual.
Nope.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
So absolutely. And really, if people get nothing else out of this book than that, they'll get a lot, because they won't go buying all those nonsense dream books that really don't, one size does not fit all when it comes to dreams.
I understand it.
So I think I got it right. So it's Ara, because now I'm associating it with Ara Parsegian, Notre Dame coach.
There you go.
Very good. Very good. I actually wrote to him when I was a young child.
Oh, you did?
I hated my name. Yes, I hated my name. And I wrote to him, and I just told him how difficult it was. And he wrote back to me and said, I had trouble with it at first too, but I've kind of gotten used to it. And now I only have to use my first name and everybody knows who it is. And so I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me.
Right there, we just saw some telepathy. We just saw it. He just said a name that you had already contacted. So
indeed.
We just saw it right there.
But I wanted to ask you one more question, playful question. So you mentioned golf quite a bit. So you're a golfer, I'm gathering.
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
I play golf sometimes.
Yeah. So do you use the self-hypnosis techniques for your own golf game?
I do try and use visualization.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I do try and do that. I probably don't do it on every shot, but where something seems really, it's like it's going to be really difficult, I do try and visualize, especially, exactly how I'm going to do it and how it's going to feel. Maybe I'll try, on the grass next to where my ball is, just to see if I can do it.
Yeah.
And that helps. That, is it 100% successful? No, nothing ever is, because You never know what a golf ball is going to do.
Right.
But yes, I do. And why not?
Why not? That's what I need to do. I mean, I got to start visualizing that ball going on the green.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you got to actually believe it, though, too.
You got to believe it and visualize.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
So there you
You
go.
have to believe it's realistic. That's true.
I agree with that.
So golf is the best reflection of life. If you guys didn't learn anything else today.
Well, I could talk for hours about that. Yes, but we don't have that much time.
Okay, I'm in trouble.
Well, all right. So, Ara, so thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom and experience and expertise with us, especially on how counseling, hypnosis, and dreams intersect with both the psyche and our own personal faith walks. Dreaming God's Way offers listeners a fresh lens for understanding not just what happens when we sleep, but how our deepest inner world connects with God's guidance and healing. For more of Ara's work, visit his guest page on our website and also his website, 1010 Hypnosis and Counseling, and links are in the show notes below. Ara, we appreciate you being here and helping us explore the unseen with both compassion and clarity, and may God bless you and your golf game.
Thanks so much. It was a pleasure to be here, pleasure to speak with you both, and thanks for those great questions. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.